Well, it's June 1st, and it's time for the first ever Mike's Tomato Town greenhouse tour. I'll try to keep it as short as I can. Probably do this just once a month unless there's a lot of changes in a couple weeks. These tomato plants were started February 1st and put in the pots in the greenhouse the first week of April, and they're doing fantastic. I'll just start here at this corner. I've got a tomato tower. These are ever-bearing strawberry tower. Got tomatoes on the brain already. And this first tomato is a dwarf plant, which grows short but grows full-size tomatoes. So they're really good in pots. You don't need to do much pruning. And like the rest of these tomatoes in here that are loaded with flowers, this one's one of the most popular dwarf varieties. It's called Rosella Purple. And got a few tomatoes starting there on this one, but mostly it's all blossoms right now. Got a little ladybug hiding back there. I released some recently to help with keeping aphids at bay. This next one is a paste type tomato called Marzanero. It's a cross between San Marzano and another type. And they're the plum shaped tomatoes that are good for sauce and for canning, and kind of look like this. They've already set, I don't know, about a dozen or so tomatoes and growing up this string. Hopefully they'll go up and up the ceiling. And then the next black pot here is another dwarf tomato. This one is called Lucky Swirl. It's a yellow dwarf tomato with red swirls going through the middle of it. Very sweet, but probably a medium-sized tomato. And then this next box is Sun Gold, which is a delicious small yellowy gold cherry tomato. And it's just loaded with blossoms. I got this netting here on the side, and so I've got two Sun Gold plants, and they're gonna grow up this way. And next to them I have a red cherry tomato and an atomic grape also growing up this side. And then they'll meet the other side, those tomatoes, hopefully just with tomatoes hanging like grapes down here. So we've got a few clusters of the Sun Gold started already. And then this cluster is actually coming over from the red cherry tomato that's here, which is called Sakura. I've grown it several years now, and it's one of my favorites. They're a little bit bigger of a cherry tomato. They got a great flavor, and they just put out a ton of tomatoes. And then this is the atomic grape I mentioned. It's got a grape-sized tomato. I actually bought this plant because my seed didn't start well. And at the farmer's market in Olympia, I found an atomic grape. These are a dark blackish purple with yellow and red streaks, and they're some of Liz's favorites. They're a really interesting flavor. Don't really taste like a tomato. Okay, in this pot, we've got Green Giant, which is another dwarf tomato. Got a nice cluster growing on there. These will could be close to a pound, I hope. Big green tomato when it's ripe, and a nice kind of a bright flavor to it. I've tasted one before. It's really good. Next to that, we have another dwarf called Dainty Isabel, and it's got tons of flowers like the rest, and a few tomatoes set already, hiding back in there. Then back here in the corner, I've got a white borage plant just to get some flower action in here. And here's this lime green colored plant. If I realized it was gonna be a short plant, I wouldn't have put it in this spot, but it's a Cherokee Tiger, which is a striped full-size reddish green tomato, which I'm really excited about trying. You can see in here a little slime on top of there. I had a slug that was visiting the borage and getting on the tomatoes. Here's a couple of those tomatoes hanging in there. And so I set up some beer underneath a container like this, and I noticed this morning I caught a slug. They're just attracted to beer. Back here behind there is a huge plant that's a Kellogg's breakfast tomato, but I'll tell you about it on the next row because it's actually leaning over where it shouldn't be. This one here in front of us is called Polish, and it's got quite a few flowers, quite a few tomatoes, And this is one of my favorites. It's a big red tomato, and it has grown the largest tomato for me for date, a pound and a half out in the garden. So I'm hoping to get some nice big tomatoes off the Polish this time. Let me get turned around, head back the row. The next plant is called Green Zebra. It's a medium-sized green, yellow, stripy tomato with a really interesting flavor. We've grown it before and really like it, and it's doing really well. And then here is also one of the biggest tomatoes types that we've grown. This one's a yellow ox heart, and I grew one that was almost a pound and a half. This one started out, there's 7 tomatoes in that cluster, 6 up in that cluster, and the plant itself always looks wispy and not as healthy as the other plants, but it grows massive tomatoes, so I'm really excited about that one. And in the next box is another one that I've grown before that I really like. It's called Lucky Swirl. It's got a tomato starting right here. It's yellow with a little red streaking. It's just a medium-sized tomato, but it's really tasty. Doesn't have quite as many blossoms as the rest. Has more of a normal amount, really. And then in the same box, I put a new one. It's a hybrid called Brandy Boy. And it's a cross between a Brandywine, which is a very famous and delicious tomato, and some other, maybe Better Boy tomato, which makes it more productive. And it's just loaded with flowers and setting lots of fruit. And it's a red tomato, medium to large size. And hopefully it'll do a great job. But look at the amount of blossoms on this. I'm really not sure if I should let all these blossoms turn into fruit or not. You can see here at the end, I've moved a couple of fig bushes that I'm trying to keep warm in the greenhouse here. Liz really likes figs, and I think I'm gonna try to grow some. And down here on the end is a tomato I bought at the farmer's market. It's a Brandywine heirloom, yellow Brandywine. Really finicky to grow, but I'm hoping that the ideal conditions in the greenhouse will let me succeed in growing this one. And then in a small pot, I've got a Italian basil, red basil. And then in this pot, I got one of my favorites. It's called Black Beauty. It's the tallest plant right now growing, really healthy, tons of flowers, as you can see on it. Everywhere you look, there's blossoms. And one of the reasons I really like it is this is what it looks like. And inside, when they're ripe, it's just a deep, dark red, and the flavor's fantastic. They're usually 8 ounces, a good medium size, like tennis ball or a little bit bigger, and can be quite a bit bigger. So I'm hoping that a lot of these blossoms turn into big ones. Next one is one I've never grown before. It's called Berkeley Tie-Dye Heart. So it's a striped red and green tomato, and it has a heart shape. And you'll see over here, one of them, kind of unique shape. Here's another one over here. It's setting quite a few, and like the rest of them, there are tons of flowers. So this greenhouse, even in the cloudy days, it's 70 degrees in here and up to 85. It's just ideal tomato temperature, really. Okay, over in this one's called Berkeley Green Tie-Dye. It's another one of our favorites. It grows a large green when ripe tomato. When you cut it, it has beautiful pink swirls inside it. And there's, like the rest of these, there's lots of blossoms. Not much fruit set on this one yet, but lots of blossoms. And then over here I mentioned there's one called Kellogg's Breakfast Tomato. This one is orange and gets large, very large, and has a really amazing flavor. I grew it once before, and there's tons of flowers on it. They're just now starting to set over there, but it just gets taller and taller and growing up the backside of the greenhouse here. It's just gonna be a lot of tomatoes. And then we got the mystery tomato. I have a tag on this one that it's a Black Beauty, like that dark one you saw, but it's clearly not. And it's not looking like any of the others, and it's not acting like any others. It has to be one of the ones I started from seed, so I've got to have another one here. But if I do, it's not setting fruit like this one does. This one started out right away. There's 7 tomatoes here. There's 7 or 8 over there. There's more getting in here. There's more over there. There's another 7 or 8 down here on that cluster. And then this bunch up here, and it's setting more fruit up there. There's could be close to 40 tomatoes on this plant right now, and I have no idea what kind of tomato it is. But I've taken a couple branches off it. I'm rooting them and starting other plants because the way this is producing, I want more of these. As long as the tomato is going to be tasty, I want more of these. Okay, let me back up. Here in this pot, we're back into the dwarf size tomatoes, which is, this one's called Purple Heart. And this one is the reason I have my greenhouse, actually, this that I bought over the last winter. Last year, I started a whole bunch of different kind of tomatoes. A lot were dwarf, like these, but I had them in boxes outside, and our summer was so cool. June and July was so cool that very few of them set fruit. But I had a tiny little Purple Heart tomato plant that I put in a pot and stuck in my plastic greenhouse. And we ended up getting about 15 large tomatoes, beautiful, tasty tomatoes. And I'm always going to be growing Purple Heart from now on. There's not as much heart shape to this as there was last year, but it's setting some nice tomatoes. And again, these are dwarf plants, so they only get 4 feet tall, but the tomatoes are full-size tomatoes, so they're a lot easier to manage. They're very good in pots. And I think it's probably something that people around the coastal area should grow more of. This one is called Fred's Tie-Dye. It's a cross between a Berkeley tie-dye and something to do with Fred, I'm not sure. It's got some nice sized tomatoes already on it. Lots of flowers. You don't have to prune the suckers on these dwarf plants, you just let them grow. They're almost like a determinate tomato because they grow to a certain height. And so they take a lot less work than these tall, indeterminate types that just keep growing and growing. Let me give you an example of what I mean with these suckers. These tomatoes grow. I pinched a bunch of them off. There's a start of one. This one's growing up, and the flowers are here, and the top of the plant's here. Right here in between this arm and that is a new start of a plant. This is called a sucker, and if you let it grow, it'll branch out and have a whole new part of the plant. And if you let too many of those grow, the plants get really crowded and full, and so there's a lot of people that pretty much say you want to trim those suckers off, and you just take them and pick them off just like that and let the fruit grow and let the plant grow up taller. But with these dwarf tomato plants, you just leave them alone and away they go. But look how many flowers are just right there on that Fred's Tie-Dye. I mean, if half of those turn into tomatoes, it'll just be amazing. There's another ladybug hiding back over there. In this pot, I mentioned before, these are the cherry tomatoes. These are called Sun Green, and they're a little bigger than Sun Gold. They're green when ripe. They turn a little bit translucent, but they're really tasty, a different taste. And so excited to have a couple of those plants. And again, like all these others, look how many flowers are getting on there. So hopefully they'll just keep climbing up and eventually meet those over there. And I'll be walking through a tunnel of cherry tomatoes. In this box is another Sakura, the red tomato, that's on the other side, and it'll grow up and meet them. I planted a nasturtium in a pot here to grow up with the tomatoes just for fun. And these are edible too, edible flowers. So are the borage. That white borage over there that I mentioned, it has kind of a fishy taste. I'm not sure why. The one that was out in the yard, the purple one, was sweet and I really liked it. Nasturtiums have a peppery taste. They're really good in salad. Okay, there's another dwarf tomato. This one is called Brandy Fred. So it's a combination of brandy wine and whatever the Fred tomato is. Nothing really set on this one yet, but a lot of blossoms. And then over here we have Amish paste. It's the other paste tomato. This one's got a real reputation of growing big paste tomatoes. So if you do canning, it's really great. And like the others, it got a great, is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's like 12 blossoms right in that one set. So could be a lot of tomatoes. And then the last tomato in here, another dwarf, is the Noah stripe, and nothing really set on it yet. Not as many flowers on this one as the others. It's down here at the end where maybe it doesn't get quite as much sun. With the figs I'm growing in here, this one's called Neverella. I'm learning a lot about figs too. Figs are actually flowers, not fruit, so when you pick them, they don't continue to ripen, they start to rot. So to get a fresh fig, you really need to have a fig plant. Figs grow on the old wood, which is this dark brown wood right here. This is called a breva crop, but the main crop grows on the new wood, this that grows. And this part can grow feet, like 5, 6, 7, 8 feet in a season, and put figs on it. So I'm hoping that the new growth on these, this one is also, it's called a Bordeaux, Violet de Bordeaux. It's a fruity berry flavored fig. It's got one breva fig up here. And then this one's called Desert King. And hopefully we'll get to taste some fruit on that. But that's about it for my first greenhouse tour, a little over 15 minutes, so sorry for the length of time, but that's where we are on June 1st, 2025 in Mike's tomato garden. Have a great month.